Kaye, I wonder why you think it is important for schools to form partnerships in the community?
I think it's really important for schools and all the people in schools to have a real commitment to partnerships first. I don't think you can form a partnership with anyone unless you actually believe in it. I reckon often that putting on the word partnership's a bit like, it rolls off the tongue really easily. It's a bit like saying, you know, right, I've got my partnership coat on today, and then you can take it off and forget about it. Yeah. But the idea is to have that deep commitment to working in partnership with people to start with. So I think it's important for schools and the people in them and the leaders to have a really, really strong commitment to partnership. And I think it's really important that they know why they have that commitment, because that will lead us to answer your question. So once people are clear about why they're wanting to form partnerships, then the kinds of partnerships they form will grow out of that. So is it all right if I talk a little bit about why you would form a partnership? Yep. I think that we form partnerships for three main reasons in schools. Firstly, schools have changed, as indeed has the whole world, and we no longer believe that they're little islands where they determine what happens in education. Secondly, I believe that schools form partnerships with people in the community and with their school community because they believe that all members of the partnership have something to bring to the relationship, to the partnership. And thirdly, it's actually about the rights of people to have a say in their everyday lives. So I think if people are really committed to those three reasons for forming partnerships, that the partnerships they'll form will be more than sponsorship deals. Sometimes I think we're tempted, particularly in these times of restraint, to think about partnerships from a school perspective to be about what the school can get out of the partnership without realising that real partnerships are mutually beneficial. Even if what they get out of it looks a bit different and looks uneven, but they are mutually beneficial. Yeah. I reckon a good example of a partnership that I'd worked in with a community group was our school was very close to a big hospital, and the idea of the little partnership came from the architect who was making adjustments to the hospital and came over and said, look, is there any way that the kids in your school would like to learn about architecture and change, and in return they could do some paintings for us which we could then use as a display while we're changing the hospital. That little suggestion grew into quite a big project with children from R to 7 and their parents and staff members working with the architect, visiting, watching the changes, being invited over to see each stage of the building, and also as part of their visual arts work producing interesting paintings to go on the wall.
That's a fantastic example. Thank you for that. What do you think the school leader's role is in forming those partnerships?
Comes back to what I said earlier about being really clear about the purposes for the partnership. I think that the whole idea of student wellbeing is dependent on students being included in the school, all aspects of the school operation. So I think the leader's role is to model partnerships within the school, and that's not just partnerships with the teachers, but it's also partnerships with the children, and it's partnerships with the parents who come into the school and the parents you can bring into the school. So the school leader needs to be very clear about the purposes for the partnership, very clear about being able to value what each of the partners brings, and being ready to take some risks. Because if we're seriously going to value what other people say, we're going to have to consider it seriously, and we're going to have to change some of the ways we think about things and some of the things we do. So the school leader can't, as I said earlier, just pop on the partnership coat and say, well, we'll do that today. Needs to actually think it through, be prepared to model some ways of forming partnerships. And because it's such an important area, I reckon it's really important to start off with small things and to grow them. So a small, successful example of working in partnership can bring about great change.
That's really useful. Thank you very much, Kaye.